what's up guys? Evan from PCO MVP here, and I'm going to do my best to give you guys a detailed but very quick walkthrough slash demo of the PCO MVP migration tool. And we're going to start right here on this download page. If you haven't downloaded the application, this is where you're going to want to come, PCOMVP.com/download. I am actually demoing the preview version here, version 3.0. Hopefully by the time you guys see this, it has made its way to this actual bigger button and the stable version. So you can just hit that start download button. I already have it on my computer, so I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to re-download it. I will mention that if you are having some issues downloading, installing, and we have a little help section here. If you go to PCOMVP.com/docs, you will be able to get all of our documentation, our knowledge base. It lives here. You might get this little pop-up for the Windows protected your PC. You can just click the more info button and run now. Just make sure that you are getting the link from this page, PCOMVP.com/download. So when you get into the application, your application is actually going to start you out right here. I have already connected to a planning center, but this button will be blue, and you're just going to want to hit that connect button. It will open up planning center, and you will just give access to our application, and then it'll redirect you back here, and it'll say disconnect instead of connect. And then your license key goes right down here. You're just going to paste that in there, and then once you paste that in there, you can just hit access, and we're going to hit access, and it is going to take you over to this funds screen. Now, funds is basically the way that our application understands how to map your old funds from your old system to the new funds in Planning Center. So the left column here is old, and the right column here is a drop down of all of your new funds. You can add as many mappings as you want. Just remember that when you're done, we want to hit this save button in the top right. Again, if you're having any issues with this, you can click this this button over here in the top right with a question mark, and it will direct you to the funds knowledge base page on the PCO MVP docs, and you can get some more information over there if you're having issues. Now, once we've done that, we're going to come over here to our templates page, and we just want to make sure that we have a template so our app understands how to read your CSV file. We take the approach that we don't want you to have to modify your CSV file. We want you to tell the app how to read your CSV file, and we have a couple templates in here already. Some of these may work for you, some of them may not. You may have to create your own. If you do create your own, you just hit this little plus sign over here in the top right, and we require at least 5 fields. That's going to be one of these identifiers, and it's going to tell you identifier, identifier, identifier. If you don't have a remote ID, I highly recommend you look into adding one. You can read more about this in our ultimate migration guide, but we definitely recommend using remote ID, but it's not required. If you want to use other identifiers, there's email, phone, and name. So we require at least one of those. If you are one of our monthly users, you can use this use as person ID field, and this will actually match the identifier in your CSV file to an existing Planning Center person ID. This is not remote ID, so if you don't know how this works, you can reach out to me to see if you're interested, and we can get you set up with that. The other fields down here that are required are amount, contribution type, date, and fund. Now again, these are just the column headers in your CSV file. I'm going to pull mine over here just for a second so you can see this top row is my column headers, and I'm just matching these up with what is in the template. So you just want to copy those over. Now that's actually a push pay export, and we already have a push pay template, so you can see that these fields match these fields exactly. And once you get that set up on your templates, you should be good to go. I'll go ahead and hit save here, and then we're going to come over to the import screen, and I am just going to import that same file that I just showed to you. Now the top section here is the template that you want to use. We are going to use push pay. This is going to be your payment source. Now, my church, we migrated from Arena, so I have the Arena payment source, but you might have a PushPay payment source, or a Venco, or a Square, or a Fellowship One. Basically, you just want to make sure you have a payment source here to where you know this is where the donation came from. You can add a new payment source right here, and by default, these get created with receipts disabled. So any donation uploaded that gets committed, Planning Center will not notify the donor that they gave. This is typically what you want if you're doing a big migration. If you're doing a monthly sync, you may want the receipt enabled, and you can do that actually in Planning Center. The other part here is this batch group and this batch. You have to have a batch group and a batch selected. Again, you can hit these plus signs right here and create a new batch group, and you can also hit the plus sign next to batch and create a new batch. When you're done, you can always commit right from Planning Center, or I'm sorry, right from the PCO MVP app. You can also commit from Planning Center. And then down here in the bottom, this left number is the batch amount, and the right number is the batch group amount. If we had multiple batches, the number on the left would probably be lower or less than the number on the right. So with that said, we have these settings over here. I will go over that in just a minute. But first, let's go ahead and import this file. To do that, all we need to do is you either need to drag and drop the file over here on the right, or you can hit this browse button, whichever you want to do. And I'm just going to hit browse, and we're going to go over here and we're going to find this file, and I'm going to drop that in, and we are just going to hit start. And there we go. It's running. Now, I did set up a little hiccup in here. We should get one that failed. And the point of this is to show you guys when you do get an error, what the typical process might look like. So you're going to hit this view errors button. If you do get an error, we see we can import in 3 rows. And I'm going to hit view errors. And then it's going to open up the file. And you can see I put in D&E here, does not exist. The whole point of this is if you do get a row that won't go in, you want to fix that right here in the error log. You can see that our application created a new file called donations_error log. And this is what the process is supposed to look like. You import the first file. We will give you the rows or the donations that did not get imported. And then we'll spit them out here in this error log file. You can correct them right here. So I'm just going to type in Evan Gunter. Then I'm going to save. I corrected the error. And now this is all we have to do. If we hit the browse button again, and we go back over here into my folder, you will see the error log, and we're just going to open up the error log, and the error file output file is right there. So we already have a template for the error output file, so you just drop it in and you're ready to go, and it should find Evan Gunter this time, and it does, and it will tell us that our upload was completed. And you got 2 helpful links here at the bottom. Click on these, it'll take you directly into the batch and the batch group, and you will be able to see the totals and anything that you want to do to reconcile that import. You're probably going to want to take a look at it in Planning Center first before you hit that commit button. But that's what that's for. That's a staging area. You can't mess up. So if you upload everything into an uncommitted batch, all you have to do is delete the batch and start back over. The only other pieces there, if you come down to this bottom left-hand corner, it will bring up that last upload summary report, which is what we just saw. So you can always come back and see what happened. And then the only other portion to importing the donations is this little settings file. We chose not to create new people, but if you have a bunch of new people that's in your file, you can create those people. It is useful to know that you can only do this with donations, not notes. But if you want our application to create new people, we will only create them with a remote ID and a name. We do not want to reinvent the wheel here. Planning Center has a great people import tool that will import all kinds of stuff for you. We recommend you use that. But if you want to create new people here, here is this option. Search using name is always enabled by default, but if you don't want to search using name, you can turn this off. And then we do have the default to head of household. What this does is if we find multiple people with the same email, the same phone number, the same name, we will pick the best head of household of that group, which is the oldest male first, and then the oldest adult female. We will do our best to pick the head of household. But if you turn this on, you do get a warning that this is not guaranteed. We'll pick the best person, but there's an occasion or a specific time where it may not actually be the right person. It may cause you headaches down the road, but if you want to use that, that's always an option. The bottom ones here are if you want to import with a separate time zone. I typically recommend leave this on local time unless your church is in a different time zone. Default fund. This will actually default to a specific fund if you don't have it mapped in the funds section. So if you're doing a bunch of consolidation and maybe you have a bunch of old funds, instead of listing those out individually in the fund mapping section, you can say, hey, PCO MVP app, go ahead and map all the funds that I told you to map in the mapping section. For everything else, will you just put in the benevolence fund? And that's how that works. If we don't find it in the mapping section, we will default it to this default fund. If you don't have a fund specified, we will list that in the error log at the end. And finally, a default payment source. If you want to select a default payment source, this is just so you don't have to click the drop down every time you get in. And that's pretty much it. Again, as a reminder, if you want to understand a little bit more, you can always hit this question mark up in the top right, and it will take you to our documentation section, which is right here at pcomvp.com/docs. And anything related to actually using the application or importing donations, whatever you want to do will be here. We do take anonymous donations. All you have to do is make sure that either the first name or the last name has the word anonymous in it, and we will assign it anonymously. All right, and that's it for the giving section and the contribution section. I'm going to hop over into the notes section. So if you click this import notes section over here, you are going to come up with a very familiar screen, except this is specifically for importing notes. I'll mention there's no templates for notes. It's just one specific template, and I will pull that up in the documentation right here. If I click on notes and click on note template, we will quickly see what fields are allowed. We used the same fields as last time to find the actual person in Planning Center. So first, last, full name, remote ID, email, phone. And then the things that are required is we actually require notes category, and created. So I'm going to minimize that, and real quick I will just show you what my notes file looks like. I'll just pull that up, and again, not everything is required there. You can include as many fields as you want. This, I just have the minimum. So I've got the remote ID, the created date, the note category, and the note. The note category, it does have to match the note categories in Planning Center. So click that open, and that will pop up your note categories, and that just needs to match word for word. So this looks good. I'm going to go ahead and hit X on that, and I'm going to drag my notes file over, and I'm going to hit start, and hopefully it's just going to upload those notes, and it did. Again, you can view the notes. Now remember, the notes page in Planning Center has those sorted by date. So you may have to scroll back a little ways if you're looking for a specific note based off of date. Now, once we upload those two notes, we do have the option to roll those back if something got messed up. You can hit the rollback button, and this button will bring up the number of notes you imported last time, which is just 2. and then we can hit the rollback last import to remove those, and you're good to go. So again, this is no harm, no foul. Again, if you mess up, not a big deal. Just don't upload another file, because this only remembers the last import that you did. And that's it for the PCO migration tool by PCO MVP demo. If you have any questions, concerns, again, you can always click this top right question mark on every page. It will take you to the category related to the page that you're on. And you can always go to pcomvp.com/docs directly, or you can email me at evan@pcomvp.com. Thanks, guys.